So, without further ado, we're going to jump into the most controversial part of our whole show here, and we're going to talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Notice I didn't do the I just did Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, for those that don't know, influencers looking to breathe new life into a Texas ghost town encounter Leatherface, the legendary killer who wears a mask of human skin. I'm gonna go first because I already know how your review is gonna go, so I'm gonna take this first. So, first and foremost, I love this movie, and the best thing about this movie is that it's set in Texas, and you know it's set in Texas because one of the first people you meet in here is packing the gat. So if you didn't know in Texas, they let you be known there. The problem with this packing the gat is that nobody in Texas, evidently on this movie, knows how to use a gat, and honestly, it made me feel a lot prouder about Sidney Prescott in Scream 5. How, at one point, she was using her gun in a way that you would think, why would she be doing that? If that guy did the same thing as Sidney did, she would have been way more effective. But let's go into the review. This movie, and I'm going to get my one gripe out the way early, this movie should have never been called Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It should have been called Holloway, or whatever it was, Holloway, Texas. Whatever the city was, that's what this movie should have been called. They should have just went with a new everything. And the reason why I say this, guys, is that a certain amount of the drama and the fear in all of the majority of the Texas Chainsaw Massacres is the family element and the crazy family. And then on top of that, Leatherface he is the imposing, dominating figure. Like the physicality of it. Right. He's the physicality that adds that extra fear to it. But the fear primarily is in the fact that this family is psychotic and off its rocker. It is something that I think that one of the great things that Rob Zombie's always done in his movies is that he's always made the villainous characters so psychotic that scares you more than actually the actions that they do. Because you're afraid of, it's like the Joker. You're afraid of what he possibly could think of to hurt you. So your imagination makes it more fearful than actually what they actually would impose on you. So with that out the way, it shouldn't have been named that. As a horror guy, I effing loved this movie. Yes, you know what? You're right. You know what? I changed my review of Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills sucks compared to this movie because this movie is what a horror hell and gore hell wants. He comes in hot and heavy from the very first kill. Well, I guess the second kill, but the first kill of Leatherface is gruesome as hell. And it was just satisfying. And then the last kill is just as satisfying as the first kill. And the last kill for me is so special in my heart because it gave me vibes of the old Nightmare on Elm Street ending where, spoiler alert for an old-ass movie that everybody should have seen. When that
movie that's older than you.
Yeah. It's waving away to the kids as they leave, and then the hood closes on them, and it's like Freddy's colors, and then Freddy reaches through the window, through the doorway's window, and rips the mother on through. This movie ends with something similar to that, but not as comedic as that was, because you can see it was obviously a doll when Freddy rips her through. But ends with something similar to that, but very, very gory and gruesome, and it probably is the most creative way I've seen a Tesla be used in any movie ever, in any commercial ever. This movie made me want to buy a Tesla. Because I was like, oh man, this Tesla is smarter than all the people in this movie. This Tesla even knows to drive away. So, with all that being
very
said,
slowly, apparently.
Yeah, right. You must have the speed down low. So, with all that being said, who cares about the characters in here? It is a point where they try to put in this subplot of like a school shooting for one of the characters to show like that she's a survivor dealing with trauma. It really goes nowhere because it's not something that she harbored back. It's a useless plot line that I'm like, why put this in here? Except for like, they almost felt like they were trying to make political statements. Like it was like, oh yeah, trauma from a school shooting. Guns are bad, but no, guns could be necessary. Certain flags are bad,
know how to
but
fucking use them.
Yeah, certain flags are bad, but yeah, they're in a certain area where that's like it was like the movie's messaging was so mixed, so it was like trying to be so straight down the line not to offend anybody. But I was like, why put these messages in here? It's useless. But you know what? End of the day, when you watch this movie, you're not rooting for anybody. You're rooting for the kills, and that is what they give you a ton of. They basically, you know, sometimes people say you just in a horror movie, they just busting a bunch of people to be slaughtered. Well, in this movie, they literally busting people, and it is awesome. It goes on, and I'm more impressed that this movie was able to sit around and say that, like, hey, we don't need to be 90 minutes. We don't need to be, 100
You
minutes.
need to be 60 minutes.
We're going to be like, 80-something minutes, barely? We're going to get
75.
in. We're going to get out. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And I loved it. And I know, speaking to the horror and gore hounds that I know, I get it. I get it, guys. Everybody's on this, the elevated, high, artistic horror now because they want stories to make sense and plot lines with character development. It's a time and place for that because I watched a movie called The Cursed that I'll review on my own because Jason didn't see it. And that movie's phenomenal. And it's the stuff that you guys want to see with well thought out storylines and,
people actually doing their fucking jobs
and people pacing. Yeah, great. But when you come to the gore and horror hounds, we want to see our big bad getting down like he's supposed to. And Leatherface don't disappoint. I'm here for it, man. Again, I guess we want to know about what about bringing back the lady from the original one? Who? Exactly. All right, Jason, go ahead. What's your review of this movie?
All right. Well, I'm going to agree with you on one major point, and that is that the kills in this movie are pretty freaking awesome. There are some gnarly shit going on in here that makes you sit up and go, oh, and those kills are pretty cool, and I really enjoyed them. But that is the only thing that I enjoyed about this movie. As a person who likes to watch, movies, I want, there to be characterizations and stories and plot lines and things like that because, if you want to just watch a bunch of kills, I just go on YouTube, type in, faces of death. I can just see people dying. It's not that hard. Firstly, Jason is right. This should not be a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. This has nothing to do with anything. It should not be a requel whatsoever. It has nothing to do with the previous film, only the fact that it makes mention to the fact that the girl from the previous film or from the first film survived. I don't even think they've even bothered to even rename her character in this movie because she is so not important to the plot whatsoever that it's like, why? There's nothing from the DNA from the first film in this movie at all. Not a sliver of it, other than the fact that I guess you can call the character that kills everybody Leatherface because he wears a human face. That's it. That's the only thing that they even brought back from the original movie, and that girl who, as I said, is ineffectual as a bag of limp dicks. All right. There are so many things in this movie that are just like, why bring them up if you're not going to pay them off? For example, the young lady who becomes the final girl has as Jason said, has a school shooting in her backstory that literally does nothing for her character. She acts like every other final girl in every other movie that you've ever seen. She does not overcome anything. She does not have to deal with anything other than the fact that she has to, do what the final girl does, which is fight the bad guy at the end. Yeah, and it's not like she makes a huge emotional leap to fight the bad guy or, make some sort of like where she is, because she's had this trauma in her past, she is more gung-ho to fight the bad guy than other characters. No, she is literally the most blandest final girl that you've ever had in any other movie. She does not, do anything other than the cliche, and yet they put this in her backstory as it's supposed to mean something, and it doesn't. They make this other character who seems like he's like this badass redneck who has an AR-15. You think he's gonna, put up a fight or something? Nope. He gets off as easily as anybody else does. You have this idea about these people coming in and regentrifying the whole town, which would have been a great idea of if they, flesh that out more. And it's like, nope, that doesn't really go anywhere other than the fact it just gets people there to get killed. There's like so many ideas that they present only for them to just be like, oh yeah, none of this matters. We're just, just kill them. It's fine. And then the characters in this so asininely stupid that it's like they're not characters, they're not people, they're just there to be slaughtered. And I know that's what Jason wants, but like if you're going to do a horror movie, like make it a movie. Like you can't just put connected scenes of people getting killed. That's not a movie. That is just gore porn. Right?
It's a movie, just not a good movie.
I mean, yes, yeah, it's a movie in the sense that it is filmed. You're right. as much as a movie as me, with my flip phone, recording shit on the day, and I'm like, oh, it's a movie. No, it's it. There are so many half-baked ideas that would have been great if they fully fleshed it out. That would have made this movie like as good as some of the good stuff that's come out in horror recently, but they did. To me, this movie felt like someone really did write a good movie, and they were shooting a good movie, and then the producers or whatever were like, oh no, we got to have this by March. And the guy's like, well, I'm not going to be done by March. Like, no, just turn in what you have and we'll make it work. And he's like, oh, okay. And they're like, yeah, just give us, we don't even give a shit. Just give us what you have. And that's what they did. And they made it, and they put it out. And they only had an hour's worth of footage. Here's the hours worth of footage that we have. Here you go. That's your movie. It's and let's get to the other connected piece to the original movie, the final girl. I don't even remember the character's name. I don't even think they mention her name in this movie. She does, and I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to bring her in as a Laurie Strode. They were literally trying to copy Halloween and Halloween Kills, and have this woman who's been traumatized by this thing, and she's coming back to take her revenge, and she literally does nothing other than pad this movie for an extra 15 minutes. Because if she had showed up and just driven away with the girls, the movie would have been over. Because when she says to the girls after she's getting gutted that, oh, he's never going to stop. No, he is going to stop, because if you leave him alone, he stopped for 50 fucking years. He didn't even recognize your old ass when you had a dead to rights with a shotgun pointing at his head. He just walked away from you. Yeah, he's going to stop. Get in the car and leave, and y'all be fine. Y'all would have been fine if y'all just left. Walk away. But no, she adds nothing to the movie. There's no reason why she's there other than to give the girl another gun that she uses poorly. Yeah, none of this shit makes sense. Like, it's dumb. Final kill was pretty cool. I did see it coming though, because because for some reason this 7-year-old man can catch up to fucking cars, like the bus. That bus is driving away. You see a shot over the shoulder where that bus is driving away from him, and yet he's somehow able to run up on there, catch up, and disable a bus by himself. And then the fucking bus driver is like, "I'm a bus driver. I got it. It's my time to die." Walks out. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, no, it's in the script. It says me die here, so I got to go out, even though it makes no logical sense whatsoever.
Look, I will say this about, because people that watch horror movies, it's this thing that, like, I always call, we know we're in a horror movie, so we say this is how you will react. It is very reasonable, because no one, like, you just saw, think about from the bus driver's perspective, you just saw some chick come in with basically waste on her. Another chick come in and they're screaming about go, 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 go. There's no mention of a killer. There's no mention of anybody dying or a chainsaw.
You're right.
Dude.
There's no mention of killer, even though they've seen 2 people murdered at this
point.
No,
the bus driver hasn't seen people.
No, I'm not saying the bus driver. The bus driver doesn't know, and especially the people in the back, they don't know nothing, because apparently after seeing their friends murdered, they don't tell to inform anybody that there's a murderer going on. They just...
That's what I was about to get to, is that his reaction is a reasonable, honest, like, because no one told him, hey, my man, don't do this. It is a guy out here killing folks. You go out,
so
he probably will kill you next.
Especially the black woman who has no name, because why does she need a name? She sees the guy who's selling all the things, getting his face chopped up and murdered. She gets back on the bus, not knowing where the guy's partner is. She lets the child go off the bus, even though, like, she's seen a dead body, and it's like, hey, she just goes, hey, don't go out there. And she's like, no, I'm going out there. She's like, no, don't go out there. And she goes out there. And it's like, your friend is lying there dead. you know, your sister is possibly dead, you know, and then like she just keeps that information to herself because she's in a horror movie, because that's how horror movies supposed to act. You know, no one goes into the back to tell the people who are back there partying, you know, has been at least one murder going on, and we need to like call the cops and get the fuck out of here. But nope.
Well, I don't know how many people live in that
and then
town.
the most egregious low hanging fruit bullshit that I've always that you know, you could do more creative than this now is when Leatherface gets on the bus, they all pull out their phones. Oh, you do anything, I'm gonna cancel you. Like, stop. Just stop. Like, that's where the movie just lost it for me. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. This thing was the fact that it's only an hour and 15 minutes from beginning to end is a blessing, because by the end of this, you're just like, I'm ready for this shit to be over, because this is that egregiously bad.
For everybody out there, like, it's not a great regular movie. Don't get me wrong, but if you know horror movies, this is a great horror movie. It gets right.
This is like the argument where it's like, oh, like Michael Bay. Oh, I'm just making movies for 15-year-old boys. It doesn't have to be that deep. Like, Pixar can make movies for children and still make them good. Just because it's a horror movie doesn't mean you can't.
Pixar's action is never as good as Michael Bay's action. And if you're an action junkie and that's what you care about is action, Michael Bay has his fan base. Like,
yeah,
that's what it is. Like, so when people are listening to this review, you got to put that line to be like, Jason's reviewing this movie.
You can make a good movie. There was a good movie here, and you chose not to make it. If you choose to do something, you can choose. And there's times where you choose to do something and they fuck it up, like, you know, the Suicide Squad movie.
I think they chose to make this movie what it was. It was a basically gorehound slasher.
And they should have not chosen to do that.
I'll put it this way: name how many gorehound slashers are like theatrically good storyline movies. Like,
there is still stuff with entertaining characters, you know, past the cheese of the 80s. You know, especially like the Friday the 13th stuff. You still have compelling characters that you root for, even though the movie is not great. You know, there's still stuff there that makes it a movie, that makes it have connective tissue. This shit has none of that. It has none of it. It does.
Friday the 13th lasted a long time, and I can't remember nobody from there. I can't even remember Final Girls from Friday the 13th. Hey, how you doing there? We here at the N-Word for Nerd. I'd like to tell you a little something about a product that we decided to, you know, steal from some people and then sell to you at a very extremely serviceable price. Have you ever been tired, worn down, and just lazy? I know I am, because that's my life. But then this magical drink came Nerd Focus. Nerd Focus hits all that stuff in your brain, makes you smarter. Well, let me change it. It doesn't make you smarter, but since you brought this, which is a smart decision, then in that turn, it just made you smarter. So, by that nature, it does make you smarter. Have you ever wanted to turn into a Super Saiyan 4? Nerd Focus will help you do that. Jason, you just had some. What do you think about Nerd Focus?
It's delicious. It tastes very good. I feel more aware. I feel more awake now. I feel like I can actually talk to a girl, maybe. You know, maybe ask her out on a date. It definitely has electrolytes in it, so that's what plants need. It's very good. It's great.
Well, guys, if you want to get your own very own case of Nerd Focus, go ahead and check out our link in our description. That's our affiliate link. So if you do purchase a case of Nerd Focus, it actually does help us out tremendously. Hey, let's get your Nerd Focus on, man.
Focus up.